What's up, party people? BV here, and welcome to another episode of Retail Media Vibes, a doing business in Bentonville podcast. We are recording live at Podcast Video Studios here in Rogers, Arkansas. So Lindsey Hamm will be joining me today, and we are flipping the script, and Lindsey will be interviewing me. So, just another reason why I chose Lindsey. Lindsey and I, we go way back. We've been in the trenches together. She has seen me at my best, and she's seen me at my worst. And I think, having someone that has that level of perspective can really dig into some of the things that go around rattling in this head of mine. I try to bring those out, and hopefully it is informative and, frankly, entertaining to all of you. So I'm really excited to have Lindsey back and have her host with me today. And ask me some of those really thought-provoking questions that everybody wants to hear from me, I hope. Anyway, so with all that out of the way, Lindsey, welcome.
Hello.
Back to the show.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. I was excited to come back today. So it's an honor for sure.
Well, fun fact, you are the first guest that I have had back on the show. Even though I asked them all, will you come back? You are actually really the first one.
I am honored.
It's important to have a certain rapport and comfort level with someone who's going to put you on the hot seat. And again, I usually get that privilege of putting others
way back. Maybe
we do. And I think, one of the things I've always said about you and when you came onto the team was, I wish I had hired you sooner. And, but we'll get
Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. I'm just kidding.
We'll get into it. So, as we always start off, we're going to start off with some vibe check. So, Lindsey, what have you been doing since we last met up at the end of the year, end of 2025?
I have been all over the place. I've been splitting time between Northwest Arkansas and Cincinnati. I did a nice bike race over the fall. Yeah.
Awesome.
It was just 32 miles.
Oh, hey.
Well, it was nice. No, I've been taking care of my cats. I have too many cats and dogs, as you know. So, and just bundled up for the winter. Cincinnati had a tough winter. We had about 8 weeks of cold and snow. And so we've been bundled up inside doing puzzles and binge watching TV.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were moments where we've all had a very hard winter. And so,
oh, yes.
It's always good to kind of have that cozy time during.
Oh, yeah.
But you do want that spring to come, and it feels like it's on its way.
It's here this week. 80 plus degrees.
Yeah,
we got
now it's like 50. So
okay, don't say that. No, it's cool. Edit that out. I'm just no, it's yesterday it was 82, so it's nice.
Cool. All right. So how you want to go with this?
Well, I'm excited and honored that I get to interview you today. Yeah. I wanted to start out with a little bit of a vibe check with you.
Okay.
So that's how you typically start the show.
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to do my best to live up to the big shoes that you usually fill as host. But I wanted to do a little vibe check and ask you a really tough question first, and that is, how are we feeling? How are you feeling about this? Are you nervous? Are we having reservations? Maybe regrets already?
Yeah, so I'm good. I feel good. I really do. I feel good. I think, when you have the opportunity to share some of the things that we're going to talk about today and talk about some of the things, I like to share, I like to share my thoughts, my ideas. I also want to hear from others, and that's, a really big part on why I started this podcast was not necessarily for me to verbalize my opinions, but really to hear about others' opinions and have a discussion about what's happening in retail media, what's happening in marketing, what's happening in retail, and what's happening in life, right? So this podcast is not just about what happens in media. It's about what's happening in life.
About people. But today, the spotlight is on you. I hope you're ready.
It is. I am.
All right. So next question. Hopefully that was not too much of a curveball. People know you as podcast BV. We know you as AI BV. We know you as all different things. What's something that maybe people don't know about you right now? Or maybe they know, but maybe they're wrong about?
Yeah, I would say, what people probably don't know about me is like, I tend to really think ahead, quite a bit. I really do try to put a lot of energy and thought into what's ahead. Part of that is because I track how much time I have left on this planet. So those of you that are listening,
Terrifying.
you may or may not know, I do have a tracker that tracks how many weeks I have yet to live, and it's assuming the average male age, and so I keep that, and it's actually a Chrome browser extension. So every time I open a new tab, it's there staring me in the face.
Truly scary.
And I look at all these little red boxes of the weeks I've lived, and then all the green boxes of the opportunity ahead. And so I've tried to be a lot more intentional, and that's how I am I've talked about the fourth quarter of my career. And, I'm trying to be a lot more intentional in the fourth quarter of my career. At the end of the day, for me, I want to make sure that the time I've spent in life has mattered.
Yeah.
It's mattered to the people that are close to me, and even mattered to people beyond those that are especially close to me. And I really think that, that's what motivates me. That's what drives me. That's what has me, decide to start a podcast. That's what has me, started, I went into a startup, which I know we'll talk a little bit about later on. But
big moves.
Yeah, big moves. And, I feel like for me, even though I am in that fourth quarter of my career, there's still a lot of my story yet to be written.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had a great story up until now. And I'm just really, really thankful that I have that. And so I do really think a lot ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't start this podcast thinking about episode 1. I started this podcasting about episode 20, episode 50, episode 100. I didn't want to get into a podcast until I really understood what that could potentially be, and it had to have legs. So, I do really try to think ahead. I look at the past, take what I've learned from the past, and try to think about how I want to apply that to the future.
You've always had a great future insight as to what's to come, and that actually brings me to my next question for you.
All right, look at that time. Look at that transition.
I know, I'm doing all right, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So thinking a little bit about our industry now.
Yeah.
Where we've been, where we're headed. AI has emerged as this major player. We know this commerce environment that we live in is changing constantly. How are you feeling about the future of our industry, of the work that we do, how it's going to change?
Man, there's a lot to unpack in that, because there's so many different aspects. There's aspects that I'm excited about, and there are aspects that I'm fearful about.
Yeah.
And, I was, when in November 2022, when Sam Altman announced ChatGPT, I was all on board. From the first, I said, literally,
I'm gonna test.
take my money, literally take my money.
Yeah.
Because it was, for me, how I saw AI at that point, it was actually an opportunity for me to elongate my career.
Yeah.
The things that I really wanted to do but couldn't do because I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
It freed that up, right? And so I've always been about, we carry too much information in our heads, and we have so much in our minds. And working in this business, in the business of retail media in general, advertising, wherever you fit into this industry, it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of work. And so sometimes the fun things are hard to come by, and it's hard to get to because of all the things you have to do. And I really saw AI as an opportunity to potentially unlock some of those things that you really wanted to do. To be honest, this podcast is 50% AI, right?
It's an efficiency driver. It's all your brain. It's just how
my
it comes
brain,
together.
and
yeah.
I've created this podcast with AI. I don't know if I would have jumped into trying to create a podcast without AI, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It keeps me organized. It keeps me thinking about new ideas and working through some of the things that you need to do in order to do a podcast. So it's really kind of opened up a lot of the things for me. And so that gives me a lot of resolve around what I want to continue to do in my career. But at the same time, as we look at some of the opportunities with technology, with retail media, I am concerned about some of the things that I am currently seeing around AI doing too much of the work. I get it, right? Media efficiency. Everybody wants media efficiency.
Yep.
Everybody wants to prove out that dollar that they spent had some sort of return.
Right.
Man, I don't know if I'm, if there's anybody from Meta listening to this podcast, bless you, but I don't know if I'm just going to give a stack of money to Meta and say, hey, go spend this the best way you think it will work for my brand.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know if
Right.
And I work in AI every day. Is the whole black box mindset. And yes, it makes it easier for the person who is running the media. But I don't know if making it easier is really the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I think this misapplication in some cases of AI can cause us to weaken what we're trying to do from a media standpoint. Is what it can weaken our ability to think strategically or think through how we should approach a problem, because it takes away friction.
Right.
And I think friction is absolutely a way for us to learn and grow our minds.
Yeah.
Right? Because if things are too easy, then what involvement do we have in what we're trying to achieve?
There has to be the human element to drive you got the efficiency, but you need the intelligence behind it and the challenge always comes from people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, you and I have been through the trenches, right? We've been through some challenging times, like no doubt about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've even outside of our relationships, I've been through some challenging times. So I don't want it to make it sound like only I'm
the challenge.
Yes,
I am the challenge.
But like those times that were super challenging to me are the times where I probably learned the most.
Yeah.
But if it was easy, would I have learned the same lessons? Would I have learned what I needed to learn in order to be a better marketer? I don't know. And so this is the thing I am currently debating, right? Whether or not an application of AI in all instances is really the right thing, even if it can do what you need it to do. And there's a lot that goes into that as well. But even if it can do what you need it to do, is it really the right thing? Because does that degrade what a human being should be able to do and to develop them and grow them through the challenges? Yeah. Through that friction.
You need the challenges.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just because we can, should we? I guess is the main question.
Right.
All right. That was a deep question for you. So back to the serious stuff. I think this is my last one in this first section. So you almost made it through. You've had a lot of great conversations on the podcast so far. Some of them, I think mine was particularly good, but
it was very good. Yes, I did enjoy
Hopefully this one ends up just as well. But you've had a lot of great conversations with a lot of great guests. Are there any that stick out in your mind? Any moments or conversations that really got to the core of why you started doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I started this podcast, my intent around this podcast was about having conversations. I really feel like the value of sitting and having an informal conversation about the industry, about what's happening, is so much more valuable than just reading a blog post.
Right.
Right? Because the exchange of ideas really helps you solidify some of your own points of view. It helps you solidify your own strategy, just the ability to hear what somebody else is saying.
Right.
So I've been very intentional with the people I brought on to this podcast. And when I book someone to be on the podcast, I already have in mind why I want them on that podcast. And I try to fit that as well as possible. Even going back to episode 1 with Tom Bryden, I brought Tom on because, in the role that he sits at Accenture, he sees a lot of what's happening within retail media across agencies, across retailers, across, tech providers. And so wanting to have him on because he definitely has that perspective. And then we end up talking about Summerween, and we end up talking about La Boo Boo. And right, so, it's the humanity, right? That's the part of this podcast that I really wanted to make sure came across is the humanity. Right. I want to have people on that I can talk about, any topic with, whatever I feel like is fitting at the time, but have that human connection, right? Have that connection where, let's disagree. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the details. Let's get into feelings. Let's get into experiences, not just like report the news. And the other side of it too is, and I really want to have people who have been in the trenches,
right?
People who have absolutely been there and felt the pain and the joy.
And the joy, right.
And the joy of, the pain and the joy of success in this space. Because, we all have stumbling blocks in this.
It's part of the journey, like you said.
It is absolutely part of the journey. And I guess that's a great word to use here is like, I want to hear about people's journeys.
Yeah.
And every single person that I've had on this podcast, we've been able to share in that.
Yeah.
Whether it was, Brad or whether it was just Hendrix, talking about what she had gone through, and some of her experiences, over the last couple of years. Like, we're all human beings, right? We all interact with each other and we all interact with this industry. And, you really want to hear about how people feel and think about it from a human perspective. Because again, as I said already, you can read a blog post,
right? You
can read a news article about what's happening, but how does that make you feel? Right.
Right.
Do you agree with that? And just thinking through all that. And that's a big part of why it's vibes. Retail media vibes is about vibes. It's like what we think.
Yeah.
How we feel. And that's what's important to me.
A very wise mentor once told me that it's not about having the right opinion. It's about having an opinion. And I think that's really key to our industry because it's changing so fast. No one really knows all the answers. And so
I agree.
I think it's a great.
Yeah. I agree with that person. Whoever
that was. Whoever that could have been. Okay. All right. You made it through the opening.
Oh, we made it through the vibe check.
Are we still feeling good? Are we? Yeah. Hopefully the questions weren't too intense.
I doubled down on the deodorant today, so
okay, good.
First, right? Yeah.
No, so. That was great. Thanks for your candid.
So far, strong. You're doing great, Lindsey.
Okay, good. I'm doing my best.
All right. So thank you, Lindsey, for taking me through the vibe check. All right, but we're gonna go into some quick hits, and there were a couple of stories that recently popped that, I know, Lindsey, you really wanted to talk about. And, one of those is the ads on smart fridges. So Samsung recently had a pilot where they placed banner ads on their high-end, think about that, right? High-end Family Hub smart refrigerators. And customers had a little bit of a backlash.
What?
I know. So owners can disable these ads.
Okay, all right. That's good.
But it also turns off all the other good stuff about the Family Hub, which is the calendar, the weather, the news. Although I don't know if you really want.
We don't want to see the news.
I don't know if you want to see the news, especially as you walk into your fridge. One of the things, and before we get into, and this is not even related to the story technically, but man, can we find out another way to monetize without using advertising? Something
else.
Like, when I heard AI, ChatGPT and, Gemini's talked about it, but, running ads.
Yeah.
With it, like, does everything have to come down to ads? But anyway, all right. But going back to the smart fridges, where do you think this whole, because, all right, let's take a step back and think, okay, this could be useful.
Yeah.
It could help with product discovery. You discover, a new item that
Sure. Is it the right place for it, though? I think that's the question that we have to get to. Is the right space to be in someone's home when they're making their dinner or, making their pancakes? Is it the right space where they really should be intruding and recommending products? And I mean, to me, the answer is clearly no, because the public response was so poor over it.
And I just think, I think we're just taking advertising just a little bit too far. And maybe that was the intent. Let's see how far we can push it.
Yeah.
And then we back.
We pushed too far. I think. Enough so that other brands, I think, have actually come out and said, we will not be doing that because it was received so poorly. So,
well, isn't there a saying, the kitchen is the heart of the home?
That's it. That's true. And I think people want to have spaces that feel secure and private. And at some point, you cross a line. And whenever you do that, any brand that you're showcasing in that space that feels like intrusion, all of a sudden, that's not brand equity. That's the opposite. I'm never buying the brand that shows up on my fridge in the middle of the morning when I'm trying to make breakfast for my kids, right? So at some point, you kind of do the inverse of what you intended, I think.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, these refrigerators are going to be on the high end.
Yeah.
So very expensive refrigerators that have I don't have a refrigerator with a screen on it. Do you?
Not right now. I'm hoping for one.
Oh, okay.
Not for this, maybe not.
I mean, and I think that's the other piece of this too, is like, if there was a discount on the refrigerator provided,
right,
because it's being subsidized with advertising, okay, maybe there is a value exchange,
right,
that makes sense there. But if you don't tell your customers that have spent a lot of money,
right,
on a refrigerator, that, oh, by the way, if you didn't read the fine print in this agreement when you probably signed, when you were going through the setup process of your refrigerator, because all you care about is making sure that the craft ice is actually good.
Right.
You don't really care whether or not they said they're going to advertise to you. And what are you going to do at that point? No, I'm sorry, I opt out. No, you can't. You can't do it.
It's too much. And I think it's a tough pill to swallow because we've been, for decades at this point, everything has been geared towards the next impression, making sure the brand is visible. And what we're learning is there are spaces where you do not necessarily need to be visible or want to necessarily be visible. And I think we saw that kind of come to life here. And what's so interesting is Samsung went in so hard on this belief that they didn't even build the functionality where it could be disabled without disabling core functions of the fridge. And so I think this sort of belief that we have to always be chasing the impression, and that's what you mentioned earlier, can we find another way? We're hitting that sort of end of the line where it's there are places we may not want to be serving impressions.
Right.
So
yeah, for sure. And I would assume that people who are buying this refrigerator are probably upper income.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So now you're advertising to high income families. So maybe there is a value in that. I don't know if they're finding it, but Samsung might be.
They've deterred me for at least 2 or 3 more years from buying a fridge with a screen with this.
Yeah.
So.
yeah, for sure. So, all right. Moving on to another story that I think we both were very interested in is, Walmart and OpenAI's shift in their their partnership, right? So, they're reorganizing their agentic shopping collaboration. OpenAI's native instant checkout feature reportedly did not meet expectations. What? People didn't want instant checkout in OpenAI and ChatGPT. So they're adjusting their approach. I mean, is this really is this a signal that retailers don't want to give up that control of that transaction layer, that transaction information?
It's an interesting question. And it's interesting. I thought this story was interesting for us because last time you and I spoke, we spoke about OpenAI and about Agentic's ability to actually serve the transaction, which is our customers going to be trusting enough of Agentic to actually purchase on their behalf. And I think what we're finding, and you and I kind of both predicted that they would not be.
Right.
And what we're finding now is that
how smart we are.
We're so smart. No, I think what we're finding is that is really the case. People are just not yet ready to hand over the reins to Agentic to make the purchase. And they may get there, but we're in the early days, right? And so we've got a piecemeal it. So this transition from Walmart, I think, is interesting in that it is a repositioning around discovery. which is a space that Agentic can play in very well.
Sure.
And around comparison. And I think for Walmart, especially, that's a space that they know they can win in, is when they are compared to other products at other retailers, they can win. And so it's a natural.
Well, especially its price is one of the key attributes, right?
And if you're thinking about the economy today and what, the majority of shoppers are prioritizing, price is going to be a big component of that. And so it's interesting to see that shift from them.
If you think about how shopping has evolved, right?
Right.
You still do go into a store, like 80% of us still go into a store, but you go into a store and you walk down the aisles, like what you see and what you experience is 360 degrees.
Right.
Right. Then shopping went to e-commerce, which went to, we'll say the laptop at first, right? The computer, the desktop computer, right? And so you took that 360 degree experience and you brought it now to whatever the size of your monitor screen is, right? So you've lost a lot of that extra, right? Then you went from the desktop computer to the mobile phone.
Right.
Which is an even smaller experience.
Yeah.
Very focused, right? So now you've taken what do you normally see on a desktop and you've compressed compressed it into a mobile device. Now we're taking what you have on a mobile device and now we're going to a chat window with small images and we're going the wrong way with shopping.
Yeah.
Shopping is supposed to be an immersive experience and we're taking all of that out. And granted, there are categories and shopping occasions where that makes a ton of sense. Give me ideas for my kid's birthday party. I'm going on vacation. So very highly involved decision-making type of shopping, it can be a tool.
Right.
But that is not the majority of the type of shopping most people do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to that's why 80% of shopping still happens in a brick and mortar store.
All right.
Well, that was some quick hits.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was fun. All right, let's head over to the main topic where now like it hasn't been happening, but now you get to ask me questions, whatever you want to ask.
Yes. Okay, BV, we are at the main event. This is the BV in the hot seat moment. So hopefully we had a good warm up and you're ready to go. And I've got some questions for you. So are we feeling good still?
We're doing
good.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Okay, let's start with something simple. What does it actually take to succeed in retail media today?
Oh man, that is tough, right?
Simple and tough at the same time.
Yeah, it is a simple question, but yeah, it's tough. What does it take? I mean, I think really kind of what it takes, first and foremost, it takes curiosity. You cannot be a bystander in this space and expect to be good at your job.
Yeah.
You have to be actively involved. Whether you're listening to this podcast or many other podcasts, you need to be listening to other podcasts. You need to be checking the trades. You need to have conversations and coffees with others in the industry, whether it's a supplier partner, whether it's a brand, whether even if you have the opportunity to talk to fellow agency, friends. Like I think it's really important. I also think, it is so data driven right now, almost to a really extreme state.
Yeah.
And I get it, and we can get into that as well. But I think you do have to be able to tell a good data story, even if the data story isn't what you really want it to be. You've got to be able to take data and not just use data and information and metrics and KPIs just for something to fill into a PowerPoint slide in the end of campaign recap. But you have to be able to really assess what the numbers mean. I also think using AI effectively is a big part of what you need to do to be effective in this business now. There's a lot of tools that are out there that you lean into to help you do that. But I think you do have to be a strong practitioner of AI and know what AI does well and know what AI doesn't do well. And then I would also say make sure you understand the fundamentals. You understand the fundamentals. If you're a digital marketer, don't forget about in-store. If you're an in-store marketer, don't forget about digital.
Yeah.
Right? Don't forget about traditional. I had Sarah Gilmer on the show previously, and we talked about traditional media. It still plays a role. It still can play a role, right? It's not going to be probably the primary thing that you go and do, but it can work in some cases. So I do think all of those things but it starts with curiosity. You have to be involved in the space. You have to think critically about the things that you see and you read and you hear, and come up with your own thoughts and ideas.
Right. And it's a lot of inputs, the data piece of it, and telling not just the story you want to tell, but the actual story that you're seeing. Using AI, using all of the pieces, in-store, digital, agentic, AI. So what are we...
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go for it.
I also think building relationships is really important in this industry as well. And that is relationships with your peers. It is relationships with your clients.
Yeah.
Because, honestly, where I've seen the most success is where, brands and agencies and or suppliers are working side by side with the same goal in mind, and have, transparency, have open dialogue, and being that shoulder to shoulder type of relationship versus a top down relationship. One is using their leverage in order to force something. When you can balance that out, and there's always going to be some sort of little bit
dynamics.
Yeah. But I do think, but ultimately, I hate cliches. I hate business cliches, but they are there for a lot of reasons, and they exist for a lot of reasons. Relationships do drive this business.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could have the best technology in the world, but if you have a crappy relationship in the community, in the supplier community, nobody's going to want to work with you.
Right. It's so true.
And that doesn't mean you're not authentic. Please be authentic, be your authentic self. But you've got to have good relationships. You've got to be a good human being, and you've got to be there for people.
Yeah,
and work through challenging situations.
I think a lot of people take all of these inputs, and they have the data, and they have the the different pieces they're considering, all of the different inputs from in-store, digital. They have AI, but they forget about the people element. And there's a lot of people kind of driving full force ahead without thinking about how relationships really impact your ability to move things forward. And that has always been true, and I think still remains true to this day.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So speaking of inputs, we mentioned quite a few here.
Yeah.
What do you think we're overcomplicating right now that should be simpler?
Measurement.
Yeah.
I know measurement is so important, right? And I am not discrediting the value of measurement.
Yeah.
And to be honest, how things are measured and what those outcomes are and how they're predicted will determine your budgets. So I am not discrediting measurement, but I do think that we are working so hard at finding the perfect measurement to prove that what we did was successful, that we are losing track of what it takes to do a great marketing campaign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the part of why I got into this business in the first place. It's the art and the science. Right. And I think we're leaning so far on the science, and I understand why that is. So I'm not going into this blind, but man, sometimes a really smart, insightful, well-created campaign is going to perform really well, no matter how much data, measurement, previous KPIs and benchmarks have influenced.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have a great insight and you just have a great campaign. and the creative is good, and it works out well, and it works across all the channels. So
I've seen some of the best campaigns emerge just from like kismet. Like it just comes together. Nothing should have worked, but it came together, and it lightning in a bottle moment, and everybody goes, oh, how do I replicate that? But you can't, because it's in that moment in time when people needed it in the way that they needed it.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing too, is like we get to this point where we're trying to turn marketing and advertising into a formula.
Right.
A plus B will always equal C.
Yeah.
And the reality is the variability between those variables, A and B, are so immense that it won't always equal C.
Right.
But yet we think that it will be. And we think if we have enough data, it will prove out to be, or if it's the right metric, it will prove out to be. You know what? Just do a really darn good marketing campaign, come up with an amazing idea, and I bet all the KPIs will be blown away.
Right.
But the people who keep track of the dollars,
that's
they want to see a number.
Hard thing to convince.
Is this a 10x ROI? Is this a 5x ROI? What is my return? Is this incremental?
Okay, so for the realists in the room, what can we stop doing right now that we have been doing for too long, or it doesn't work? What's like, there's one thing you could just tell them right now. It's just stop doing it. What would it be?
Stop thinking that this is all about a formula. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I think trying to narrow what is essentially a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And make it so scientific.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that the science doesn't apply. It absolutely applies. It's an important part, and it should be part of the equation. Man, it's become the dominant part of the conversation now. And you know, and I get it. Like the marketing directors of a specific brand, and when they're going to go get money, they're only going to get money if they can prove out that it works, right? And so that's I get the difficulty.
It reminds me in a weird way of the Wendy's social media example from years ago, where they decided to just go absolutely personable and start roasting people on their social channel. And at the time, you know, it was like the most terrible idea from a brand safety perspective, but it worked.
Right.
And now every brand on social media has its own distinct voice and is roasting each other and all kinds of things. And it wouldn't have happened if someone just didn't take a risk. And so we've got to take risks in our industry.
Yeah, I love that idea. You know, take a risk.
Yeah,
absolutely take a risk. Don't worry about whether or not it's going to work.
Right.
You know, don't make that the primary
and the exclusive KPI.
Exactly. I've worked on a lot of campaigns with a lot of brands, and those brands wanted to do test and learns.
Yeah.
But, you know, the learn part was learn that you made it work.
Right.
That was the learn part.
Okay, let's shift gears from that, because I want to talk to you about AI, because that's your realm. And I'm going to be really, really real with you for a second, BV. AI for a lot of us goes right over the head. We are lost. We are struggling. We're trying to figure out what to do next. So can you start out by just telling us, what are you using AI to try to solve for right now?
Like personally or within the job?
I want to hear the professional answer, what we should be using it for, and also how you're using it day to day.
So with AI, there is a lot of use cases for AI. And, you know, first, I always tell everyone, AI is not a magic button, right? It's not going to solve all of your problems. And to be honest, like, there is misapplication of AI in so many different ways. I know I spoke very highly of AI early on in the conversation about how it's unlocked some things for me. Yeah. I personally use AI quite a bit for ideation. I use AI quite a bit for writing. And I use AI quite a bit for planning, and I also, use it, for some visuals and some things like that.
So on the topic of AI, I think the elephant in the room, right, is there's a lot of fear around AI and how it's being leveraged. I think we've all seen both the benefits and some of the stories that have been coming out about the use of AI and, whole organizations kind of flipping their structure. Where do you see AI impacting the way teams are built going forward? And how will that potentially change our workflows in the future?
Yeah. So first I will say, companies that went ahead and just said, we're going to cut a bunch of people because of AI made a huge mistake. Or they were taking advantage of the hype around AI. Right? So let's just put that on the table. The term I used just a few minutes ago, I think is the term that I will continue to use for a while, and it's about orchestration. I think having a human being orchestrating various AI tools in order to achieve a specific outcome, deliverable or media outcome or whatever, is the future, 100%. How that gets implemented will vary based upon organization and what level of AI they want to ingest into their company, right? I've been in organizations where there are a few tools that you can use, but those tools have so many restrictions on them that you really don't get the outcome that you really could. And so what you end up doing is going to another platform outside of your company's organization, which is not
great.
That's not a good idea. I would call that a career limiting move.
Okay.
Right. And so I would not necessarily advocate for that, but it does drive some of the challenges, right? You can't expect one LLM, one tool to solve all of your AI opportunities. I have been in this space long enough now that I know that there are different platforms that do better for different things. And, we've been asked specifically, hey, we are using this LLM. Can you modify your platform to work with this LLM? No. Because the challenge with that is because that LLM isn't customized or optimized for what we're trying to do, especially creatively, right? We do have a very modular platform, so we can always switch out whatever models we want to use at any time. It's not that. But why would you want me to swap out what we're using today for Copilot when Copilot can't generate the content that you're really wanting to use from us? And so so you have to really keep in mind, just it's an old saying, right? The right tool for the job.
Right.
And I don't think you can really truly solve all of your challenges by signing one agreement with one LLM for your entire workforce. And so I think you have to be choiceful. I think if you're a company, regardless if you're an agency, a brand, a tech company, a retailer, you have to be choiceful. Where do you really want AI to show up? Where can AI be the most benefit? And so I think, you have to have a clear view of how your company works.
Right.
That's the scary part for a lot of companies, right? Really truly understanding what your company does and how it does what it does is it is a scary proposition. And then figure out where can AI really help. And I would not AI wash AI throughout your entire company. I would be strategic about where it's used, how it's used. But I would also support, the company to ensure that there are the right types of training, the right types of workshops, doing hackathons, all of the things that really give people a practical opportunity to engage with AI in the way that the business wants people to use AI.
Do you think that we kind of leading off of that topic, do you think that we're in any spaces overestimating the trajectory of AI and its ability to sort of automate our entire lives? Are there spaces where maybe we're overestimating or misevaluating the use case for AI and how it should be implemented.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think AI is a little bit overhyped, and I work at a company that uses AI every day. I do think it is overhyped. I think we're trying to place it everywhere because we don't really understand it well enough to really know what it's good at and what it's not good at. So I think there's a little bit, that's natural, right? I think, with all the hype that has been permeated throughout the media, I think there's all of this pressure that you have to say AI, you have to put it everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think that there's definitely going to be some learnings that are going to take place where maybe it wasn't such a good idea to put AI there. Yeah. And it still comes back, and you said this earlier, it's not if you could, it's if you should.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places you probably can put AI, but really should you put AI?
Right.
Because, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, you need a little bit of people figuring out how to solve problems before you start to let the robot go and solve those problems for you. You need the friction there. And that's how people are going to develop and grow. So, it's still going to be a learning process, an experimentation process, but you have to be clear on what outcomes you're expecting. And when those outcomes are achieved, you celebrate it and you try to replicate it. Yeah. When those outcomes are not, then you reevaluate and determine, is this something that we want to continue to do, or should we do it in a different way? Yeah.
It's kind of like when we talked about this a little bit last time, when we're setting a media campaign and, the brand comes back to us and their KPI is everything. It's like they want the sales, but they also want the impressions and the views. They want to drive brand engagement. It's like you kind of have to hone your strategy around your intent.
Right. Well, and the thing is, AI will figure all that out.
Right. It's like, I don't have to think anymore.
Exactly.
Which sometimes would be nice. All right. So let's get a little bit into the human layer. This is the part I've been looking forward to because I want to get to the core of who BB is as a person.
Me too.
We're all figuring it out together.
We're figuring it out.
All right. So I'm going to ask you maybe some tougher questions, maybe just a little bit more thoughtful, like internalized questions for you now. Right. So, okay. I want you to tell me, is there anything recently that you have changed your mind about?
Changed my mind. I would say, I think going back to just AI, I think, my opinion and thoughts on AI have evolved.
Yeah.
And so, I'm still bullish on AI for sure, but I think my perspective on AI now is a helper technology, not a do it all for you technology. And so that has definitely become a modification for me. I would say that, I think retail media overall, I would say, it's not such a niche. It's been brought to the market as kind of a niche media.
Yeah.
When the reality is it's not. And so I used to really think a lot about it only from a retailer lens.
Yeah.
And so, with the evolution of retail media, I would say that, now I really think of it as definitely omni-channel, but even some above the line and below the line.
Well, the connectivity now of everything, from the reporting and analytics to the different tactic types. Mm-hmm. We were talking about a little bit before this about the YouTube integration with Kroger. Like we are seeing all the pieces kind of start to merge together.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it become this one bigger picture where it was niche in the past.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Okay. If I had to ask you what you're chasing right now, what would you say?
What am I chasing? I am chasing bringing value to whatever I am involved in, whether it be the organization I work for, whether it be this podcast, whether it be, other engagements that I'm involved in. Like for me, what's important to me and what I've learned is I want to feel like I'm bringing value to that engagement. And it's always become a big part of me that I think I may not have faced head on.
Yeah.
And, I'm just doing this because I like to do it. But I think for me at this stage, I'm really thinking about how do I add value? And then I'm not quite there yet, but I am starting to think about, okay, what is my legacy?
Yeah.
What am I, when I get done with whatever I'm doing, when I look back, what did I really accomplish?
Right.
Is really kind of what I'm chasing.
Have you started to crack the code on that yet? Have you got an idea? Is it coming into frame for you yet?
I think for me, I would say really connecting with human beings, like, really bringing, I guess value to conversations and the relationships, that I have. I had a realization, I guess a couple years ago now, maybe 18 months ago, but all the relationships and people that I am close to that are not my family all came through work.
Yeah. True for a lot of us. Yeah.
And I mean, I grew up as a military brat. I was in the military myself. I traveled around a lot. I'm a transplant here into the Northwest Arkansas area.
Right.
And so, like, everybody I know is because of work and how important that those work relationships have been for me, and being able to work with people and support them and work alongside them. How much of that has really been an important part for me. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. We're all kind of at two ends of the spectrum right now, and then we see like AI automating everything. And at the same time, I think we're craving more humanity. Yeah. But I feel that pull because it's sort of the counterweight to the automation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does the struggle feel worth it right now? Do we feel like the struggle is worth the opportunity?
Yeah, I think. I do. I do. I think, I value all the relationships with all the people that I have. I am a lot better person because of the people I know and people who I care about and the people who care about me. And I think, that is fulfilling in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so, I think, overall I do.
Yeah. It's funny, probably 10 years from now, all the things we're talking about will be, regarding the work and the industry will be irrelevant because we'll have moved on to the next big thing. But the people connection always remains. And I think that's like the one piece that just stays put and never, it's always there. It's solid. It's got a foundation.
What's interesting for me is, reflecting back on my career, like I've been there for every single one of these big moments.
You've seen them all.
I've seen
the metaverse.
I've seen the internet. The internet grow.
Yeah.
I've seen, and actually I was on the cusp of mobile technology with Nokia and worked with Nokia.
That's right.
And got into mobile marketing.
Yeah.
Definitely have seen the growth of social media and what impact that has had, from a society and an advertising perspective. I've, obviously seen the growth of retail. I've seen, what the metaverse was supposed to be. And then, now it's AI, right? So I have lived through all of these phases that impact our industry so much. And I feel fortunate to have had that opportunity. I don't have to read about it in a history book. I can.
You loved it.
I did.
You lived it. The highs and the lows.
Yes, the highs and the lows.
But the people always remain. You may not sell that same Nokia phone anymore, but you probably still know people from that time in your life. Yeah, call us right now.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks for letting me go a little deeper into the human layer. Hopefully, I wasn't too tough. All right. We're almost at the end.
I usually like doing the bold vibes, but I don't know if how good I'm going to do at receiving the bold vibes.
So for those listeners who don't know how this works, I'm going to read a few statements and I want your immediate gut response. These are quick responses, no long answers, as you told me last time.
That's true.
And I've got maybe 8 or 9 of them for you. So are you ready?
All right. I'm ready. I'm going to do it.
Okay. First one. retail media as a term will disappear within 5 years?
Maybe not 5 years, but soon thereafter, because everything is retail media.
Okay. All right. Most brands are investing in retail media without actually understanding it.
I think partially, yes. I think retail teams are doing a great job of trying to inform brand teams. Whether or not they're understanding that will TBD.
All right. AI will reduce the need for large agency teams.
I agree with that to a certain extent. I think it will also depend on the nature of the relationship between the brand and the agency.
Whew, that's a relief for me. Most AI work in marketing right now is just theater.
No, I think there is some good AI work actually being done, but some of it is actually, some of it is probably for theater.
A little fluff in there somewhere.
A little fluff.
You're more comfortable building than managing.
I like building. I definitely like building. I also like managing.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody who has achieved a certain level of leadership has been a manager.
Yeah.
There are great days being a manager, and there are not so great days.
Goes back and forth a little bit for you.
And when you build, there are good days and there are bad days. So I would say that, building, yes, managing also a yes, but probably building is a little bit more engaging, a little bit more fun sometimes.
Okay. You've taken more risks in the last 2 years than the previous 10.
Wow. I mean, I've taken more risks. I would say I would say that I've taken more risks in 10 years than I have in the last 2.
Okay. All right. A little bit of a scary one. You're building things that could eventually replace parts of your own career.
I don't want to say replace. I want to say amplify.
I like that better. That's
or augment.
Okay.
It's another A word.
That's a better one, I think. All right. The most important work you'll do hasn't happened yet.
I have to believe that.
Yeah.
That's what gets me up in the morning.
It's a motivator.
It is. Yeah. I have a saying, peak when you're dead. Right.
That's where the tracker comes in with all the days left.
And so I am continuing to try to get better.
Yeah.
And improve. And I'm going to keep doing that until I can't.
Boy, but that means that last day is going to be like a real peak. It's going to be like the best day ever.
Yeah. We'll see about that.
All right. At the end of the day, connection matters more than output.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's always been how I've worked. I've celebrated output, right? So when you accomplish success together as a team,
yeah,
that's obviously great output, but it's the relationships that you've built to get there that means more to me. The
connection creates the output more than we realize.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's the bold vibes.
Did I make it?
You made it. You made it through. I hope this wasn't too painful for you. Hopefully a fun experience.
It was awesome. I hope I brought some value.
I hope I filled the big shoes over here being a temporary host.
Yeah. So, Lindsey, before we go, is there anything that you want to plug?
So I want to shout out the great coworkers, bosses, and direct reports that I get to spend every day with.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, please give the show a like, share it with a coworker, comment, and just help us spread the word of this show. If you want to find all of the episodes of Retail Media Vibes, you can go to retailmediavibes.com. If you have some comments or maybe you want to sponsor the show in the future, you can hit me up at retailmediavibes@gmail.com. And thanks for listening. And as always, I promise to do better next time. BV out.